Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Navis Nobilite. I am Captain Zelnick, and today we are going to do something a little bit special. We're going to start digging deep into the great archaic past of Battlefleet Gothic, going all the way back to the year of, I think, 2007. A truly seminal book of fan-made lore and ships that actually did a lot to shape things that were to come. The concept of this book is actually what brought me forward to make the original Book of the Void, and then the more modern Book of the Void 1, 2, and the upcoming number 3. So I wanted to take you back and show you a little bit of my inspiration for the books as they are, and maybe these books will inspire you as well, because a lot of these older ships, some of them have actually come forward into more modern supplements, and some of them are still kind of present in this book only. So maybe this will inspire a whole new generation of lore and game makers to come and create ships and fleets around these concepts, because there's an awful lot here that we can work with. So what am I talking about? Well, I'm talking about the Book of Nemesis. Now, for us old fogies of the hobby, this book is pretty familiar because it has some of the first well-balanced, well-considered ships of the fan cycle, the fan circle, and the unofficial supplements. Now, I'm going to read here the editor's note. After a few months of hard teamwork, I can proudly present the Book of Nemesis, the compilation of the best Battlefleet Gothic rules we have published on the Cypher portal. Most of them were extensively play-tested during a few events and uncounted number of home games. The idea of this publication was born at the Charkov System event in July 2007, so this origin is very old. We created and accepted at our event such a number of additional rules that I realized that they should be compiled in one place to avoid confusion. The Nemesis sector itself was invented in the spring of 2006 when I was preparing for our first BFG event in Poland. War in Nemesis sector... sorry, that was a terrible way of reading it. Anyway, in the next year, piece by piece, I created its history, starting from loose beer discussions and methodical work. As soon as the region of the 40k universe gained its final, and soon the region of the 40k universe gained its final shape. Although we tried to make the book as balanced as possible, remember that the rules presented here are unofficial, and you should consult your opponent or event organizer to check to see if you can use them. I would like to thank all books co-authors for the fine job, to Ian Cybershadow Weary for proofreading, and Andy Hall for giving me the motivation and allowing me to use GW-owned graphics. And finally, last but not least, one technical note. The Book of Nemesis is designed for 2-page printing. You may print and bind it as a normal book by Marcin K. Gerkowitz, the main editor. And I want to say this. Thank you, Marcin K. Gerkowitz, because this book is fantastic and inspired me. So if you ever watch this video, I'd love to talk with you on the channel. You're an absolute frickin' legend. Anyway, moving on. We have the history of the Nemesis sector, which is ultimately a whole bunch of lore. And again, this is what motivated me to have all of the Books of the Void have a lore section, because it is a phenomenal way to help get the idea of the book and the idea of the ships into the minds of the player. Now, I'm not going to read through this. I think that you, as a watcher of this channel, should 100% read through this, have a look at one of the earliest and most complete fan supplements of all of the Battlefleet Gothic history in regards to fan supplementation. But I highly, highly recommend that you download this and read the lore yourself, because it's wonderful. It has a wonderful timeline. It has an excellent overview of what goes on and what things happen. It's phenomenal. But let's get on to the ships. And right away, we are graced with probably my second favorite ship in this entire book, the Blasphemer fast battleship. Now, I think I'm going to read this out because this is just such good lore. It is believed that only one Blasphemer-class fast battleship, better known as the Revenge, have been ever built. Its history starts at M37 at Thunderian 2 Forge World, where legendary tech magician Xavier Delacruz designed a ship which was based on the old Avenger-class Grand Cruiser, but much faster and better armed. You can actually see the Avenger midsection right there. The ambitious project included adding extra lance batteries on the prow and increasing range and firepower of the weapons batteries, increasing thrust by installing 3 salvaged Scatrix engine coils and plenty of extra plasma reactors to drive the whole machinery. In fact, these changes were so serious that little remained of the original Avenger class, except for this section right here. Where was I? According to legend, the vessel was so innovative that the Adeptus Mechanicus started a secret investigation because De La Cruz was dangerously close to heresy against the machine god. Unfortunately, before the ship could be finished, the Thunderian system, with its orbital docks and rich asteroid mines, were captured undamaged by Chaos forces in a sudden massed assault. Treachery was expected. The nearly finished vessel had fallen into traitors' hands, and its construction was soon completed. The fate of the Zephyr de la Cruz is unknown. From that time, the Blasphemers plagued the Imperial trading routes of the Nemesis sector, massacring convoys and outposts, and sometimes leading fast raids. Probably no other ships of this class have been built due to the very high usage of resources compared to its capabilities and extreme vulnerability of construction. A few times, the ship was crippled and had to disengage after taking damage, which would have just been a scratch for other battleships. In the last conflict, it was Chaos Admiral Francis Gurkov's flagship, and again, it proved itself most deadly opponent in a good and lucky hands. I do enjoy the idea of fast battleships. What do we have? It's a battleship with 8 hits, which is pretty standard for fast battleships, especially in this era. The idea of a 10-hit fast battleship is actually pretty modern. Speed of 30, turns 45, shields 2, armor 5+, turrets 4. Your equipment is prow lance battery, strength 4, front, left, right. Starboard weapon battery, both 60 and 45 at ultimately 16, 6 at 60 and 10 at 45. And port weapon battery to match it. So you basically have an Avenger with better range and 4 prow lances. So that's right there is pretty savage. That's a great ship. Now, special rules. Thanks to the great thrust to mass ratio, the Blasphemer can come to new heading. Unfortunately, the ship is virtually filled with plasma reactors, which makes it vulnerable to incoming fire. The ship rolls 2d6 dice for critical damage for each hit, which means 1 hit may cause 2 critical hits. In addition, the Blasphemer... why does this thing keep on popping up? Jeez. In addition, the Blasphemer adds +2 to catastrophic damage table and explodes like a ship with 12 hits. So it is volatile, to say the least. Blasphemer may be included in any Chaos Space Marine or Chaos list where it fills a battleship slot. Now, is this ship balanced at 290 points? Broadly speaking, I would say yes. It's extraordinarily vulnerable with only 2 shields and 8 hits. It's 10 points cheaper than the Desolator battleship with better firepower overall, but it goes up like a firecracker. I would always use it because it's just hilarious and fun. The idea of such an insanely fast and fun battleship is just a lot of fun to me in this regard. I love this thing. I hope to see this again in future supplements when people are willing to take this and use it elsewhere. Now, here's hoping. Anyway, moving on. More Chaos ships. The Heretic light cruiser. This must seem rather familiar to a lot of you people. I've been using Heretics in my Heretics in my supplement because the Chaos light cruiser is actually a very old phenomena. The Heretic light artillery cruiser is considered by the Imperial Navy historians to be the ancestor of the more common Dauntless class. The first noted appearance of these ships dated to M32 476 in the Adeptus Mechanicus archives. A fast support cruiser with huge firepower compared to vessels of similar size was designed. Unfortunately, these deadly ships seem to be prone to corrupting influence of chaos. Later, it was surmised that, as probably due to uncommon geometries and curves within the ship's hull structure, within 120 years of service, 6 of the 11 built heretics had abandoned the Holy Light of the Emperor and turned traitor. The remaining 5 ships were destroyed by order of the Inquisition. According to the Ordo Hereticus, 4 of the renegade heretics have been destroyed in combat. The remaining 2 have been undetected in the last few years of the Gothic War. These ships have appeared significantly later, and I'm quite happy for it. Obviously, they roll 5d6 on all head full. That's going to be standard, and as you can see, this is pretty much identical to what I use in Book of the Void 3. It is the prow, starboard, and port weapons batteries, all strength 6, front, left, right. It's a mean little vessel. Mine is slightly cheaper. I think mine sits at 120 points. That may have to change, but again, my rules are experimental. Moving on, the Chaos Pagan. Pagan system control cruiser based on the Heretic pattern cruiser compared to the precursor ship is much heavier and extensive systems for long-range sensors, which unfortunately reduce the vessel's speed significantly to high energy demand. Oh, this thing goes 30 centimeters. That's interesting. Okay. Interesting to note. Okay. Ship was generally, yeah, this one's 30. That makes sense. This is 25. That's interesting. Generally really hated by Chaos captains because the typical use of these vessels is long-range patrol duty or holding conquered worlds in iron grip, using bombers armed with nuclear weaponry as a tool of terror. For such individuals like Chaos Lords or captains, such kind of such activity is like an exile. In the battle line, the ship is easily replaced by bigger, more common, better shielded, and armed Devastation-class carriers. But there's also another aspect to the Pagans. Some of them are used for special tasks, such as agent insertion, sabotage, long-range recon, and deep strikes. The most notable was the activity of the Daemon's Blade during the conflict of the Echelon subsector. Prior to the victorious assault on Khorne's Glory system, Emperor's Glory in the Imperial terminology, the Demon's Blade delivered agents to the Imperial planet, which managed to get a hold of enemy defense plans and allow the forces of chaos to attack at the most favorable time. Pagan class adds +1 to its leadership value for sensor arrays. That's interesting. And rolls 4d6 on all ahead full as opposed to 5d6. So it's like these are good little light cruisers, assuming that you don't have anything to really compete with. That's a whole philosophy issue, which you can see in my videos about why no Chaos light cruisers. But moving on, we have the Chaos Unbeliever light cruiser. Which, by the way, this used to believe to be the Fanatic. Yeah, the Fanatic, which I changed the name of in the Book of the Void 3 back to the Unbeliever because it's proper. All right, what do we got? 6-hit cruiser, 25 centimeter speed, 90-degree turn, 1 shield, 5 armor, 2 turrets. Prow lance battery is at strength 2. Starboard weapon battery is and port is strength 6. So it's basically a midi murder. Quite a popular ship in the southern fringes of the galaxy, the Unbeliever light cruiser is not a homogeneous class. They are rather a category of ships built for long-range patrol, raiding, and pirate hunting. Although usually associated with the characteristic Thorius pattern, it is not uncommon for heavily damaged Imperial light cruisers, especially Endeavors, to be rebuilt in order to fulfill requirements of this category. But whatever the Unbeliever's origin, they're commonly named Edges by their crews from all fleets. Some people think this comes from the sharp prows of the ships built on the renegade Thoris Forge world, but there's a certain legend that presents another explanation. There's a strange curse that looms over these ships. They tend to achieve glorious victories or suffer pathetic defeats. In 247 M40, a Chaos Unbeliever named Gore was destroyed by 2 lone sword-class frigates on a long-range recon mission just 3 years after the Unbeliever, known as Death, destroyed an Imperial Dauntless-like cruiser. Flamesword and crippled the Siluria-class cruiser Guardian of Mankind. In 670 M41, the Imperial Toil achieved great victory, crippling an unknown Hades cruiser and destroying 3 Iconoclasts just to be blown to pieces by a few stray mines just 7 hours later. After this event, Ensign John Hondleton, killed in 675 M41 when the Imperial Unbeliever Holy Storm exploded after receiving hit to its main plasma reactor during the Second Battle of Grim Passage, said, "It's like surfing on the edge." And that's what probably caused the source of the nickname. So, again, inconsistent writing, that's fine. Light cruisers are very rare, should not be counted as core ships. They are rather fine addition to it. The true pearls of the crown. You should limit Chaos Light cruisers to 1 per 1,500 point of fleet, unless you are using Warhost's Nemesis fleet list. Interesting to note. But again, 120 points, a nice and decent one. But again, even now, back then in 2007, Chaos Light cruisers are not meant to be used and are super rare. You must at least understand what's the meaning of life. Legendary sentence spelled by Gubba the Big when his orcs joined Gurkov's fleet in the Pirate War. Alright, Chaos Schismatic. These should all be familiar for those who've watched my overviews and Penumbral Pirates videos. Fast, swift, and elegant, the Schismatic class cruiser, though often considered to be being undergunned, proved itself a very successful vessel. These ships were built in few numbers in the 36th millennium as a fast torpedo boat and raider, thanks to the unique prow construction. It can launch torpedoes in extreme angles, which are not available to most vessels. The last Schismatic was built before Goj Vandire's bloody reign, and most schismatics were lost in a warp storm, which destroyed the armada sent against Sebastian Thor's forces in the event that this class took its current name before it was known as the Consistency. Interesting. Consistency-like cruiser. In my experience, they don't really live up to that name. And the technology which allows construction was lost to the disarray of these times and unrest. Last schismatics serve in the reserve fleets as patrol or training vessels. Unfortunately, recently, more schismatic class crews have been observed in chaos fleets, and some are identified as ships from Vandire's fleet. Official sources deny this information, as propagating such news is countered as spreading defeatism and punished in suitable ways. We have a 6-hit cruiser, 30 centimeter speed, 90 degree turns, 1 shield, 5 up armor, and 1 turret. And the front, left, right, strength 4 torpedo, and starboard and port 30 centimeter lance batteries at 130 points. Again, chaos-like cruisers, man. They're fun. But moving on. We are now into the Imperial section for some really fun things. The Reprisal class battleship. And the beginnings of the Reprisal go back to the middle years of the 36th millennium, inspired by the Oberon class, which we all know and love. Admiral Dethenshoff wished for a similar universal ship, which could also smash through the middle of an enemy formation to engage in a short-range firefight. What is more important was it should survive, a fact that was not guaranteed in the case of the more vulnerable Oberon. The Reprisal began its career as a separate project, but it was soon realized that it would be much easier to modify an existing Retribution class to reach the specification required by Dethenshoff. The technical plans were made relatively fast, but it took a whole of the 37th millennium before building of the first vessel was started. 1,000 years just to get one ship built. Despite the fact that it had proved its capabilities multiple times, the Reprisal has not gained popularity among a conservative admiralty, so only 2 ships have left dockyard at Malachi 7. First of them, the Iron Storm, became part of Battlefleet Nimeriah and took part in a few victorious battles with traitor forces. The second one, the Equilibrium, finished in 445 M39, was assigned to Battlefleet Itrax. And it soon became the doom of both human and Xeno pirates who plagued the sector. The rumor is that the last time Fleet Admiral Strahi is on board the vessel, and he leads an expedition against Necron forces. The main goal of this operation is to recover a crippled Inquisition Blackship and its priceless cargo. Circumstances of the event are very unclear, and details may be revealed when Admiral Strahi returns home, based on Terra's Gamma. What do we have? We have a 12-hit battleship, 20 centimeter speed, so it qualifies as a quote-unquote fast battleship. 45 turns, 4 shields, so standard Retribution / Oberon. Retribution combined with Oberon setting, because you have the 5 turrets and the 6 up armor prow. You have a strength 9 torpedo prow. Dorsal lance battery at strength 3, starboard and port weapon bay at weapons batteries at strength 8 at 60, and you have launch capacity 4 on the vessel when it comes to basically fighters, bombers, and assault boats, strength 4. Prize hull is a heavy vessel, can't use come to new heading, it's 375. Now, do I think this is a good ship? Not really. It doesn't do anything that the Oberon really doesn't do. Yeah, the desire to get in and start shooting things is great, but if it was meant to get into close combat, it should have a shorter range weapons battery with a higher weapons salvo as opposed to 60 centimeter range. Ultimately, I think that this vessel's going to find itself heavily outgunned by just about anything in the game. This probably has suffered a long period of this probably could have used better play testing, but again, it was 2007. So, but in the end, it's a cool battleship. It's reasonably cheap at 375. But then again, the Oberon's only like what, 335. It's a very cheap battleship for equivalent firepower. Because remember, the Oberon gets 2 lances and a 16 broadside. This only has an 8 broadside and 3 lances. It does get torpedoes, which is okay, but you're not really getting a whole lot for it. So I would not take the Reprisal. Anyway, next ship, the Imperial Terra-class battleship, rocking in at 410. The outbreak of a series of wars within the Nemesis sector, known as the Pirate Wars, have coincided with the discovery of an approximate location of the wretch of the Santiago freighter, about which there are no news since the twilight of the 30th millennium. Its disappearance was a painful blow to the Imperial Navy. The reason is that Santiago had carried full documentation of the best storm battleship in the Imperial naval history. The reaction of High Command was rapid. Earth decided to send to this conflict area its own expeditionary forces, which led by Solar Admiral Christopher von Schreckenberg. Additionally, the Inquisition sent their own black ship with Inquisitor Benedict on board. He was a very experienced agent whose skills could be priceless for the expedition. Searches proceeded with varied success. Casualties suffered in clashes with alien species, the Tau and the Eldar, dangerously increased, but the goal of the search was achieved. Exploration of the Santiago's wreck, which had been found on the desert planet of Imprimatum 4, appeared to be a full success. The documentation was untouched. But the worst had only just begun. When the Imperial forces were preparing to return to Earth, Tau vessels struck them like thunder, with most of the Imperial units when most of the Imperial units had fought a bloody and obstinate battle with the enemy, one ship silently took a course to the solar system. 10 years later, the Martian dockyards unveiled the first Terra-class battleship. This powerful vessel, whose main task is to throw enemy battle formations in disarray, is everything an admiral could ever have dreamed. Versatile armaments, average speed, and a good protection against incoming torpedoes and attack craft make the Terra a battleship, a real god of war. However, everything has its price. Unfortunately, in this case, it is too heavy to make a Terra a core vessel of every Imperial fleet. Technological complications and heavy expenditure of the rare resources needed to construct the vessel had the effect of that only a few warships of this class were made, and plans for the construction of the next wave of vessels are very problematic. It's hard to pinpoint the most notorious Terra-class battleships, but the most Imperial officers would surely recognize the Conqueror, the flagship of Solar Admiral Christopher von Schreckenberg, the man who led the solar expeditionary forces to the Nemesis sector. And here we go. A 12-hit, 20-centimeter battleship, 45-degree turn, 4 shields, 6 up front, 5 up rear and side armor, 5 turrets. So a nice, solid combination. What do we have? It has a torpedo salvo of strength 9 out the front. Dorsal lance battery of 3, front and left, right. Starboard weapon battery, strength 10, left and right. Starboard lance battery, 60 centimeters, strength 2, left and right. So a formidable firepower. Very similar in many ways to the Arc Mechanicus. Cannot come to all-head full. Does not suffer a column shift in firing over 30 centimeters. You may deploy... So, basically, this is a dream battleship. Anyone would want to take this thing. And for good reason. It's a remarkable battleship. It's insanely powerful. The only problem is this ship very much is a hole filler. It's basically the super battleship that every Imperial player wants, but should never be allowed to have. It's a fun ship, though. I'd love to play against it. I would personally never use it. All right, here we go. The origin of the Dominion, that ship that should have never been allowed to exist. We all know the Dominion, everybody. It's in Battlefleet Baka now. A beautiful example of, tragedy in our time. But since this ship is pretty well known now, since now it's a legitimate ship, I'm going to kind of move on and go on to the Imperial Fire Dagger. You may include 0 to 6 fire daggers. It has fleet defense turrets. So it's a little escort with fleet defense turrets, weapon battery 2, escort 1, 25 centimeter speed, 90-degree turn, 2 turrets. Fire Dagger fast frigates are a new class developed in Segmentum Pacificus fleets, but originally they were created, or rather improvised, in Segmentum Obscurus to counter overrun numbers of attack craft used by Warfleet Chaos Warmaster Lafayette. At first, fire daggers were created by rearming badly damaged or salvaged swords or firestorms and equipping them with fleet defense turrets commonly used in Battlefleet Baka. Tragically. Soon, the fire dagger proved to be an excellent escort ship, especially in protecting convoys and small battle groups. Nowadays, their numbers are growing rapidly in dangerous regions, where a weakened or scattered navy is under constant attack and cannot assure a sufficient number of precious carriers. So, Inquisition Black Ship Shadow of Vengeance, personal vessel of Ordo Xenos Inquisitor Lamia Reno, 300 points. Looks like it is based off of a repulsive design. Okay, here we go. 8-hit cruiser, so weaker than your standard Grand, 25 centimeter speed, 45-degree turn, 2 shields, 6 armor all around, 2 turrets, prow torpedoes, strength 6, launch capacity in the prow. You can either fire assault boat. This is kind of odd. This should technically be up to 4 assault boats instead of Thunderhawks, instead of just 2. This is why you really don't want to mix Thunderhawks and assault boats. Dorsal bombardment cannon at strength 6, port and starboard weapon battery at 45, left and right. All normal rules for black ships apply. Okay. Archaeotech, it has a mimic engine. Plug-in device, works everything but not on... So basically it follows the Dark Eldar mimic engine. 300 points, a little overpriced for what you get. But, I mean, ultimately this is kind of like the Inquisitorial Cruiser, ultimately. It has very similar rules, though the rules are woefully incomplete here. I would not use this simply because of the issue with the launch base, because a Thunderhawk is worth 2 assault boats. So, and at 300 points, that's cripplingly expensive for what you're getting. All right, this is my favorite ship. This is number 1, my favorite ship in the entire book, the Diabolis Extremis battle barge, the Grey Knights battle barge. This is what had me push very hard for a Grey Knights battle barge in general, and what helped me convince the Soulforge Studios to make the bit for the Grey Knights barge for the Psychic Cannon. Why? This is an amazing ship, and I wish I could see it more. Okay, 420 points. The Grey Knight fleet is not big, but specializes in delivering demon hunters to the followers of chaos. This is not the only purpose that they are used for. The fleet also hunts demon ships. Sometimes the enemy is so powerful that even the Grey Knight strike cruiser is not enough. When the situation requires more, the Grand Master of the Grey Knight Order calls for a ship that can match even a demon battleship. A vessel which every inhabitant of the warp fears the most, the Diabolis Extremis. The vessel is a simple battle barge in design with one improvement. The prow torpedoes have been replaced with a huge psi cannon, which was disassembled from a wreck of a cruiser that was long forgotten and buried in the moon with Titan. The Diabolis Extremis had a list of over 27 demon ships that were banished back to the warp and utterly destroyed on her account. This is referencing, by the way, the old Demon Slayer cruiser, which I believe emerged in a Battlefleet Gothic magazine, but I may be wrong about that. But anyway, the stats. 20, it's a standard battle barge, spread, battleship 12, 20 centimeter speed, 45-degree turns, 3 shields, 6 up armor, and 3 turrets. It has a weaker, when it comes to weapons, it's virtually identical to that of the standard barge with the 12 battery and the 8 bombardment cannon. The notable difference is the weaker launch capacity. Nominally, that's 3 instead of 2. And, of course, the prow psychic cannon. Okay. Psychic cannons were rumored forged by the master magicians of the Dark Age technology. The device employs the same rules as a lance, except that if it is more than difficult to aim, so you can only hit on a 5. In addition to causing 1 point of damage, the weapon has a unique effect of depending on the target type. Against demons, a hit banishes them back to the warp. On a 4+, the demon ship is counted as destroyed. Now, this would be great if there were more demon ships used. Regrettably, nobody uses them. Against the hive ship, knocks out synaptic control for the following turn, which is pure comedy. If it hits the following turn, the target halves its weapons, strength, firepower, turrets, and shields, and reduces movement by 5 centimeters. Nova cannons may not be fired. Now, I would wonder if that also applies to the Armageddon gun. Interesting question, but an important point. Because it functions like a lance, all of these effects, because it says right here, in addition to causing a point of damage, so it has to get through the shields. So shoot your bombardment cannons first. I love this ship. I wish this was made official, but sadly I wasn't able to convince people. Anyway, now moving on to some of the Eldar stuff. The Eldar Nebula battle cruiser at 310 points. The first ship of its class was not constructed on an almighty craft world, but on a small pirate base in the Sharkov subsystem, in orbit around the planet known as Tartar. It was designed and built on the orders of Pirate Princess Delan of the Aliatok Void Raiders. The ship was built with one purpose, to bring destruction to the Chaos Fleet, which poised to invade the system. The Farseers saw the future, and it was dark for the hidden maiden world Vithal. After 8 months of construction, the brave fight by the Void Raiders, the enemy force found the dockyard and the ship was ready. but it only had a skeleton crew, which proved enough to bring the ship to safety. The base was destroyed in an epic battle over the Tartar moon. The remnants of the fleet retreated to the warp, leaving the system. Later, the ship received a full crew, thirsty to take revenge on the enemy. It became known as Kane's Fury. Okay, so what do we have? An 8-hit cruiser, so that's definitely battle cruiser or grand cruiser level. 10, 20, 30 speed. Standard rules for turrets, holofields, and armor. We are equipped with 2 pulsar lances, 4 prow torpedoes, and a strength 10 keel weapons battery. At 310 points, given that the Voidstalker is 380, it's relatively balanced. Pulsars are at 45, batteries at 10. It's not a bad ship. It's kind of a mash together of a shadow. It's basically a shadow, a slightly weaker battery shadow but it can fire front, left, right. That is nice. So you do have a little bit of the advantage to a beam. I mean, it's not bad, but at 310 points, I would just take the Voidstalker, because then I have launch capacity. If you increased the torpedoes to 6, this would be a viable ship. As it stands, there's no... I would rather spend the extra 60 or 70 points to get the Voidstalker. Now, the Nebula battlecruisers count as a battleship for fleet comp, just for FYI. Okay, so ultimately, not the best design, because this is competing with the Voidstalker, and it doesn't do enough or isn't cheap enough to really give a good reason to take it over the Voidstalker. All right, the Eldar Ikaros light cruiser. The Ikaros, used by Eldar Corsairs of Valia Tech Not Raiders, early stages of the Nemesis sector war, and a light and fast fleet carrier. This non-standard ship is a field conversion from a damaged Solaris class cruiser, the Kane's Name, crippled in a lone raid convoy at CQ-43/152. As a result of successful actions of the Regulus system, 3 other Solarises reconfigured in accordance with this pattern. I mean, that's not hard. Solarises simply aren't that useful. Before the ambush on Tau forces in Zenitar 2 system, the Kane's Name received a number of torpedo bomber squadrons to counter the firepower of Tau drone-guided missiles. A Tau fleet disengaged before actual combat began. The only recorded incident of combat involving the Ikaros was the Pro-Octurus system, when a wave of bombers from the Kane's Name crippled the murder-class cruiser Dust. Probably only 4 ships the Ikaros have ever been built. Okay, so we have a standard light cruiser spread. 4 hits, 15, 20, 30s, holofields, and turns. What are we equipped with? Launch capacity 2 and a prow weapons battery of 6. Interesting. Again, we're running into the problem of this is meant to compete with the Eclipse, which has vastly superior firepower. The Eclipse is expensive. I think it's 240 points. I may be wrong. The Eclipse is significantly more expensive, but the firepower of this vessel does not really justify. I mean, you could take torpedo bombers, hooray, but it doesn't even really compare with the Aurora, because the Aurora has those 2 pulsars. I feel like this is lacking punch. If it had strength 8 weapons battery, then it would be worth it. If it had the standard Solaris firepower, I think this would be a worthwhile take. But I feel like these ships are underpowered for the points that they're demanding. All right, the Dark Eldar Succubus class light cruiser. So, let's see. There were no sign of any major Dark Eldar activity in the Nemesis sector, with a few exceptions. Many convoys were destroyed in the same style by a lone light cruiser of unseen earlier configuration. A good example was the Imperial convoy of refugees from EX-834245 colony that was annihilated by the Tau. Odd action by the Tau. It was attacked by a ship that earlier had been recognized as an Imperial Enforcer class light cruiser. The ship approached at high speed, and the Captain Gerald Foss from the Dauntless light cruiser Opus Di opened the channel to make a request for identification. In return, the unidentified shipwoman fired and crippled the convoy flagship. Then the massacre began. Wave after wave of assault boats swarmed the unprotected transports, and almost all the Imperial citizens were slaughtered. Severed heads loaded into the rescue pods and launched in the direction of the near Imperial world echelon. Yeah, that's Dark Eldar for you. The pods landed on the planet, and the people opened them became mindless shells. Wow. Yeah, I don't blame them. Opus DA disengaged after 5 months, arrived in the sector's naval base. After interrogation, Captain Faust was executed for his crimes against Imperial citizens. A new threat to humankind was revealed. The naval experts established, after a long discussion, that the ship belonged to the Dark Eldar race. The vessel was smaller than a standard torture, but possessed firepower equivalent to a standard Imperial cruiser. Not all ships were of the same configuration, but all used the same tactics. The ships received the codename Succubus in Imperial Navy manuals. We have a 4-hit cruiser at 40 centimeters, turns 90 degrees, shadow fields, that's a typo, I believe. Armor 5 up. It comes standard with a strength 6 battery, and you can equip one weapon: a strength 2 Phantom Lance, a strength 4 Prow Torpedo, launch base, launch capacity 2, or impalers. How many? I believe it's one impaler. Yeah, it'd be one impaler module. Not a bad ship at 140 points compared to the Torture. A good alternative, considering how expensive the Torture is. This will let you cram in a great deal more raiders with it. So a good ship. I actually kind of like this ship. I actually am intending on using this in a future supplement. And here we go. A Tau vessel. A Tau Nao'Sak'Oraes missile cruiser. Anybody looking at this would be able to identify that this is basically a sawed-off protector. It's a little embarrassing, but yeah, it looks like a sawed-off protector. Experimental vessel designed to provide long-range support for the Tau fleet. At this moment, few have been built, and after successful proving ground trials, these were sent to the front lines and further testing under battle conditions. The Nao'Sak'Oraes was an advanced, highly automatic light cruiser armed with dozens of missile racks, which are its primary weapon. The main tactic of the ship is to stay in the second line, overwhelm the enemies with huge amounts of deadly missiles. This doctrine makes the vessel very expensive to maintain. Nearly 40% of the hull is filled with huge stockpiles of ammo. Oh, joy, that sounds fantastic. Automatic transport devices and reloaders. On the other hand, thanks to installing the best AI and plenty of drones, the cruiser requires few crewmen, even by Tau standards. Despite the first field results being promising, it is unlikely this class to become common as Tau vessel due to the voracious ordnance-based armament, making it very difficult to supply and keep at combat readiness. We have a 6-hit cruiser with 25 centimeter speed, so it's very fast for Tau. That's actually a strange speed, because even the if it's supposed to be a second line cruiser, it should be 20. So this is actually harmful to the ship because it may go too fast. 45 turns, 1 shield, 6 up front, so it has Prow Deflector, 5 up, and 3 turrets. Its weapons are 2 gravitic launchers at strength 4. One is dorsal, front, left, right. The other is prow at strength 4 at front. It has a port and a starboard rail battery at 45. Okay, so strength 4 total. You can let's see. Yep, it has a Prow Deflector. Adds 1 to its leadership when doing reload. Ship has skeleton crew, -1 during boarding actions. Due to fire control problems, it cannot launch dorsal and prow weapons in the same salvo, and always fire separately. Not against this ship. The speed is odd, but it is what it is. 45-degree turns on a light cruiser. I don't know about. I mean, it gets experimental. So, I think it has promise. I don't know if it necessarily. It almost feels like it almost doesn't fit because it doesn't have grav hooks or even the option for grav hooks. It kind of lacks that modularity that you would expect out of a Tau ship. But it does dump a lot of torpedoes onto the table. Not gonna lie, I could see this thing being potentially, refined slightly. But it's a good Tau ship. Tau ships are really hard because the Tau fleet itself is a very complete fleet, especially. Actually, both of them are, because there's so much customization options, because you have multiple different patterns. So you have all of your options in just a couple of ship classes. All right, the Necron Cartouche class light cruiser. I will be using something similar to the Cartouche in my upcoming Necron supplement. This actually, I think, appeared in the BFG video game, too. Anyway, the Cartouche-class light cruisers are fast, dangerous, and fortunately rare vessels used by the mysterious race known as the Necrons. As the Necron tier fleets were used or observed, the class usually filled the gap between typical cruisers and escort ships. They are not capable of fighting alone against cruisers or battleships, so the Cartouche typical tests hunt down enemy escorts and engage light cruisers. The most notable actions of these abominations were destroying nearly a whole recon expedition during the 157 incident and eliminating orbital defenses around the Stratum Hive world before Necron invasion, known as the 797 M1 Illustrium Massacre, or simply the Great Harvest at Elis. It is a 4-8 cruiser, 30 centimeter speed. So roughly speaking, the same as the Shroud. It has a strength 2 particle whip and a lightning arc at strength 4, points 130. This is a little cheap for 130. Yeah, this needs to be closer to like 150 for a 2 particle whips on this thing. So, yeah, undercosted by a pretty long shot. I mean, it's fragile, it's exposed, but it needs to be more expensive. Though these particle whips, since you can take 3 of these things, it's so good there's no reason not to just take 3 and squadron them. And watch as you just start throwing particle whips at like a strength 6 particle whip at thing. Yeah, you're basically shooting with close to tomb ship level firepower. I mean, it is front facing, that does kind of change it, and the lightning arcs are left right, but ouch, it's situational, but ouch, it's just too expensive. All right, and these are going into things like battle stations. I'll let you guys look at these things because I'm not really interested in a lot of the defenses. But as you can see, this book is astoundingly complete. It has a whole bunch of lore in it. It has its own scenarios and campaign rules and everything. I highly recommend this book to go back, if not to, get a little inspiration for maybe some of your own fan projects, but just to see what we were doing back in 2007, back in the before days, before GW abandoned this game. All right. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you all again in the next video. Have a great day.